All right, so we started chapter 1 as mentioned. The big idea thus far is that we live in a multi-dimensional world. What we see is not the only thing that is. There's so much more to that which the naked eye sees. Now, we are about to speak about the four worlds that are part of a strong part, an integral part of these different dimensions. The four worlds that are the world of emanation, which is the highest, Olam HaAtzilut. Then the second highest, the world of creation, Olam HaBriah. Then you have the third highest, which is Olam HaYetzirah, the world of formation. And then you have this world, the world of action. And in many, many ways, what we do in this world has an impact on all four worlds. God, in very many ways, travels, so to speak, through those four worlds, and we can travel back, or our actions can travel back through those four worlds. In the language of Kabbalah, this is called Seder Ishtalshelut, where you have God residing above, of course, those four worlds. That's where Or Ein Sof, his infinite light, is. But as he communicates with us and as we communicate with him, he is drawn down through the Seder Ishtalshelut, through this journey from layer to layer, from world to world, from dimension to dimension. And same goes the other way around, as we mentioned. When we pray, for example, if it's a prayer from the heart, I know we spoke about this 2 weeks ago, if it's an earnest prayer, the prayer then really goes all the way through those four worlds to the throne of glory. If it's a robotic prayer, and that doesn't come from the heart, then it gets stuck. It maybe goes to the ceiling, something like that. But it certainly doesn't go all the way to the throne of glory. Now, it doesn't mean, just to end this thought, it doesn't mean that if we're not in the mood that we shouldn't pray. It doesn't mean that if my prayer is going to be robotic today, then I should just close the book. Because in Rabbi Steinsaltz's words, I remember saying him this, him saying this many times, but sometimes you have a prayer that's worth naught, zero. It's a robotic prayer. And then another prayer that's worth naught. And then another prayer that's worth naught. Then you have one good prayer, and that's worth one. But that one goes in front of all of the zeros, and it elevates all the zeros together. It's like a check, right? If the one appears at the beginning, it makes it a million. So that's the power of one good earnest prayer. So it doesn't mean that if we are robotic or if we feel robotic that we shouldn't pray at all. But that's regarding prayer. It's true for actions too. Every mitzvah that we do has an impact way beyond that which we can see, not just in people, but again, in all of the four worlds altogether. Now, it is said that the angels that reside mainly in the world of formation and other types of divine creations that are in the other worlds actually tremble from mitzvahs that we do in this world. Because the light that we can create through mitzvahs, which is really the fulfillment of God's desire, is something they can't do. And that light is more powerful than any other light that they can put together in upper worlds. And when we do that mitzvah, it radiates such a light that, again, makes them tremble. That's the impact we can have on upper worlds. And it's true for mitzvahs. And according to the Tanya, it's also true for self-control. If I'm able to control myself from doing something negative, just that mere self-control, as it says in the words of the Zohar, creates a light that istalek le'ela, lechulo halmin, that it goes up to all the worlds up there until God himself, and it's a reach lichach laHashem, it's a real good odor, good smell for God. And that light, the angels tremble from. And in the merit of that light, again, just from self-control, God blesses the person with infinite blessings. So we have, again, this idea that's embedded in the Zohar, that everything that we do is impactful on so many dimensions. It's not just Newton's law that says every action has a reaction. He stole it from here. Every action is a reaction, but not just here, in many other worlds. So that's really the big idea that we've been speaking about. And so just we continue. So, I mean, we can, of course, dwell on these words for forever. But here in this paragraph, we find really the essence of man. In the words of the Talmud, you know, it's interesting because the Talmud says that each of us is really a combination of two creations. We're half apes and half angels. And in many ways, like Rabbi Stein says here, we fluctuate between those two modes. So when we need to eat and we need to sleep and we need to engage in physical activities, then we're engaging with the ape side of us. But then there's also a spiritual side of us that if we're courageous enough and spiritual enough, then we know also how to become angels and how to indeed soar like angels. But we can't escape one side or the other. We still need to eat at the end of the day. We are not fully angels. We still need to sleep, and vice versa. We still need to pray. We still need to do good in order to live a life of purpose and meaning, because otherwise that too can create all sorts of spiritual maladies. But there's this duality in every human being that causes those crazy fluctuations and maybe those confusions sometimes. And this is what Rabbi Stein says here, that very often we are in this world, but we are not in this world, because we know we have to be in this world like apes, but we're also angels, so we're not of this world. And I think that's why Rabbi Stein would have this line. Very often we would say that people are wrong when they go and experience spiritual experiences and they say that we are human beings that experience spiritual experiences. It's wrong. We are actually spiritual beings, in essence, that are forced down to this world to experience human experiences. And that's the way we should view ourselves. We are spiritual beings, but we're forced into bodies of apes, so to speak. It's not the other way around. We're not apes forced into bodies of angels or forms of angels. We are actually spiritual. And I think that by that definition, it helps the going back and forth between the ape and the angel. If you know that at your very core, you are an angel, you are spiritual, but you're forced to live in a body of ape, then the body of ape won't serve as an obstacle to your angelic state, but it will serve more as a channel to your angelic state. But you have to recognize first that you're an angel, and that, yes, you have that ape that you're forced into. But that I think is the easiest way to ensure the smooth transitions between your ape side and your angelic side. I just want to say one more thing, and again, I don't want to be the only one speaking. This is all about, please share your comments and disagreements and so on. Please, Julie, yes.
In the past, you've talked about how each person has like an evil and a good.
Right.
Is that what this is?
Right, very much so.
And the spiritual,
right.
The evil and the good?
That's right, exactly. The animal soul and the godly soul. In the words of the Tanya too. So you have those two sides, and they don't get along too well because they each have different sets of desires, right? Yeah. Animal soul wants a good massage. The animal soul wants a good ice cream. But the godly soul couldn't care less about that. The godly soul has different needs. It wants to pray, it wants to do good, it wants to love, it wants to give. And very often they clash. And I think in many ways, the goal of the human experience is to indeed find this perfect harmony, so that the godly soul is the one in the driver's seat and it knows how to channel the animal soul for a meaningful life. So that is the idea, right? No, good point. But I want to add one. Yeah, Seth, go for it. Go, please.
In reference to ideas versus actions, there's actions that I assume are considered spiritual or good. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of delusions and
right.
Negative ideas as well. So just curious what the distinction is.
Right. No, very good. Very good. Rabbi Stein mentions both. Usually the rule of life is that if my spiritual idea is taking me away from an action that can benefit others or benefit the world altogether, then it's not spiritual. It's all in your brain. As Rabbi Stein called it in prayer, remember that expression, false pregnancy. So you think you're pregnant, you think you're experiencing that state, but you're not. It's all false. It's all in your mind. That same year, if your spiritual idea is taking you away from your goodly or godly action, then it's not a spiritual idea to begin with. It's some hot air, some false pregnancy. But that's usually the iron rule. Now, if it's not taking you away from it, you have to ask yourself first, indeed, is it a spiritual act or a spiritual idea? And secondly, the other rule is what comes out of it. Because as Rabbi Steinsaltz himself would often say, and we've spoken about this, the goal of life is not to soar the heavens to the heavens. The goal of life is to bring a little piece of the heavens down back on earth. And if you are stuck there, or if you come back unchanged, then maybe you shouldn't have soared to begin with. What was the point of your trip to the heavens? And that, I think, is, again, speaking to that balance that, yes, we have to have highs. We have to connect to our angelic side. But the whole purpose of our angelic side, which is really our angelic core, is to then influence the ape part of us and the apes of the world altogether. Because otherwise, then what's the point? And we missed it altogether. And that's a challenge, but it's really the goal of it all. Yes, Linda.
So you can't keep the spiritual side of yourself. You have to send it out into the world in an animal shell to do good.
Yeah, that's right. You can keep it to yourself, and
You
you
can't just say I'm praying when somebody else is suffering. You have to go
right.
help.
That's correct. You know, one of the great biblical episodes is about Joseph and him being sold to slavery. Remember that? By his own brothers. And it's interesting because the role of Reuven is questionable. Reuven was the oldest brother. He was the firstborn. And he feels a tremendous sense of responsibility towards Joseph, that even though, yes, all of his brothers want to kill him, he says to himself, I can't allow this to happen. I'm the responsible brother and the firstborn. So he goes to his brothers and he says to them, you know, what are we going to gain from killing our brother? Let's just throw him into a pit. And in his mind, what Reuven was thinking is that we'll throw him into a pit. Then my brothers will go away and I'll go and save him from the pit. I can't go against my brothers. They're going to express their anger towards me. Who knows what's going to happen? So I'm just going to make this little plot in my mind, and I'll tell them to throw Joseph into a pit. When they leave, I'll take him out and I'll save his life. And that's how he calms his consciousness or conscience. That's what happens. His brothers are convinced. They throw Joseph into a pit. And Reuven steps aside. He was waiting for his brothers to leave so that he can go back. What is he doing as he steps aside? The Talmud says that he's praying and he's doing teshuvah. He's repenting. Then after he finishes to pray, he goes back and he sees that his brothers are not there, but nor is Joseph in the pit anymore. And he starts asking, what happened? And they say to him, no, we just sold him. We threw him into a pit like you told us. But then we saw slave merchants and we sold him to slave merchants. And Reuven becomes very upset. He says, the child isn't here, and what am I going to do with myself? Now, if you take this biblical episode and you apply it to here, I think there's a tremendous lesson here. That sometimes we are like Reuven. We engage in prayer, in repentance, we meditate, we go take a good hike, and we contemplate, and we are in awe at God's creation, and we feel very high. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. That's great. But if you have a child drowning in a pit, it's not the time to do that. If that's going to refrain you from, again, taking that action, then you've missed the point altogether. By the way, that's why Reuben was not chosen as the leader. Eventually it was Judah. It was a shady character. But he's the one eventually, because he takes action, that is chosen as the leader. And so is his tribe. But that's the point, that sometimes those spiritual modes take us away from what we actually need to do. So we can be Reubens from that standpoint. And that's the idea. But I want to take it even further and say that very often they seem also as contradictions. There's the spiritual, right? Angels and apes. There's the spiritual worlds and the lower worlds. But I think that if we can see ourselves as spiritual beings in human experiences, we'll find that really there is no contradiction. That this world is very divine. It's very angelic. That even the ape that we're in is also very, very holy. And the best way, therefore, to fluctuate between those two modes is to say that really there's no change happening between my spiritual side and my ape side, because I'm connecting to the holiness of my ape, to the divinity of my ape. So to give you a practical example, we've used this example thousands of times. But if I have an apple right now in my hand, and because I need to eat that apple for the vitamin C that is in it, or whatever it is to nurture my ape side, I could just say, okay, fine, shucks, I have to do it, so I'm just going to do it because I'm a spiritual being and I hate eating apples, even though an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Fine. But or I can say, 1 second, I'm going to use this apple now to elevate it. I'm going to say a blessing over it. It's going to elevate it. I'm going to use the energy, the vitamins that it's going to give me to do good. And then I will find out that the apple is not standing on the opposite side of my spiritual being and my spiritual needs, but it's one and part and parcel of it. It's actually enhancing my spiritual being. It's one with it because I've connected to the spirituality in the apple. So it's really, think about this in a more profound way. It's not, yes, we have two modes, but they're not contradicting modes, even though they appear to be. We can make it one united mode if we can connect to the world and its divinity within. That's really another method yet to not only smoothen this transition, but to not have a transition altogether. Yeah, Seth, please. Yeah.
Controversial question.
No, please go for it. Yeah.
There's some controversy about whether the ultra orthodox should be surveyed in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's been some pressure, and the focus is on, but usually the response is that they're focused on the other side.
Yeah, studying Torah, and therefore they don't need to serve in the army. Well, look, I have a son who serves in the army right now, so I can tell you very well what I think about it. That I vehemently disagree. I think you need both. You can study Torah, but you got to serve in the army too. Fine. If you are studying Torah, if you truly are studying Torah 24/7 and you're engaged in it and thrust in it, fine. Okay, so study Torah. But once not everyone's going to stay in that mode. At some point, you're not. So then you have to go to the army. And vice versa. I think the army also needs Torah. Again, they go hand in hand. It's one united being. It's not two separate segments. So I think, no, I'm glad you brought it up because it very much relates to that.
It's a slightly different question. Angel, the platform, their platform, where the angels are. I'm the soul. My soul passes through the 4 layers, theoretically, or maybe just gets to the first layer and gets stuck there.
Yeah. Oh, no, it doesn't. No.
But what is the relationship between the soul and the angel?
Right. That's a good question. So we are higher. Souls are higher than angels. Souls come from the world of creation, which is the second highest world, Olam HaBriyah. Angels come from Olam HaYetzirah, which is the world of formation. By the way, within each and every world, you have different levels too. So you have different levels of angels. You have lower angels like Ophanim and Chayot HaKodesh, holy animals, that's what they call. And you have higher angels like Srafim. Srafim are like the fiery angels. They are higher. What makes them lower and makes those higher is usually the mission that they are given. The Srafim are capable of doing more, while the Ophanim are very limited in their capacity. But so they still live in that same world of the world of formation. We are higher than that. We are from the world of creation. So what's the difference between the two and what's the relationship between the two? In the words of Ezekiel, we are called mehalchim, which means people who grow and walk, who advance, who move forward. Angels are called standstill beings, omdim. They stand still. They can't move forward. We as souls have the power to create. Therefore, we come from the world of creation. True creation is something that is constantly vibrant, alive, and therefore growing. They don't have the power to create. That's why they're from the world of formation. Something that is formed stands still. I formed this bottle, stands still. That's it. It's not going to grow anymore. That's what it is, the world of formation. And that's the main difference between the two, right? Now, the interaction is that the angels are there ready to serve us. Believe it or not, you have angels right now around you serving you. protecting you. They are there to stand still like bodyguards and be there for us.
We are surrounded by angels.
Surrounded by angels. There's no doubt. No doubt. I'm reminded of a story I read recently about the Lubavitch Rebbe who was in Crown Heights walking from his home to his office. It was about a 10-minute walk, as he would do every day, every single day, until his wife passed away, and then he turned his office into his permanent residence. But in one of these walks in the morning, he saw a mother walking with her children, I guess, to the school bus, and all of a sudden, one of the children runs away from the mother and crosses the street by himself, and there's a car coming, and she's going crazy, and the car screeches and stops, and she grabs her child and then shouts at him, "How could you dare do that?" And the Rebbe was there. He's watching all of this. And then he says to the mother, "You don't have to worry too much, because your child has angels protecting him. But next time, hold his hand a little bit better." That's so sensitive and so beautiful and so sharp. So we have angels protecting us all the time, but they serve us. They're on the lower level, and therefore they serve us. Yes, Julie.
So is it like just my angels for me, or Hannah's angels for her? Or like, I'm sorry that I'm such a.
No, it's a great question. Right.
Of the class, I just don't know if this has been covered, so.
No, you're right.
When I'm born, I get my angel, or
It's a great question.
when do I
So
get my angel?
You want to make sure they're.
so you have angels that are designated for you when you are born. But then the idea, we may have spoken about this or may have not, but with every mitzvah, we create an angel and for ourselves. And that angel walks with us all the time and protects us. And not only in this world, but by the way, but in the next world too. Once we ascend to the next world after 120 years, then they serve as our defendants, so to speak. Hey, I'm a representative of the mitzvah that this person did, so rewarding.
When God created, the 7 days of creation, did he create the other worlds at the same time?
So when were those 4 worlds, those 3 previous worlds created? That's a great question. So that's a very good question, and there's differences of opinions regarding that. Whether the 3 worlds above this world were created during the 7 days of creation or not. So look, the Talmud speaks about how 310 worlds were created before this world. And Talmud also says that this world is the end product. It's almost like Thomas Edison. We try to fill that light bulb, what was it, 1,000 times? 10,000 times? Eventually he got it right. So too with God. God created a world and threw it away, a world, threw it away, until he created this world. Now, those 3 additional worlds might have been created in the process. Or they might have been created together with the world. There's differences of opinions. I don't know. But going back to the angels again, every time we do a mitzvah, the good angel is created. Now,
this is very confusing.
Yeah.
Because like first you said, when she asked you, she gets an angel and I get an angel. But then is that an angel assigned to us forever? But then you said that if you do a mitzvah, you get another angel.
In addition, yeah. If you did 1 million mitzvahs, you might have 1 million angels right around you. Yeah.
Yeah, I did maybe 900.
Yeah. Now, yes, you could. Now the Hasidic masters would go a step further, depending on the quality of the mitzvah is the quality of your angel. So if you did a mitzvah half-heartedly, you still have an angel, but he's half-hearted too. Yes, please, yeah. So I wasn't going to go that way because, yes, you're right. Now, if you do something bad, you don't lose an angel, but a bad angel is created. And a bad angel is created, and they serve as your prosecutor in the world to come. But I will say this, 2 things about that. One is good angels will always remain with you. Bad angels, if you did teshuvah, they go away, they disappear. Secondly, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, would say something very powerful. Would say, we all know that when we do mitzvahs, we do them with all our hearts. So we have a lot of healthy angels. But conversely, when we do sins or negative things, no one does sin with his full heart. We do them half-heartedly. We know it's wrong. Our conscience bothers us. That means that all of the negative angels that we may have are all completely what? Yeah, they're weaker and they don't have the vibrancy that the good angels. So these bad angels have no chance. Yes. Yeah. Sorry? Angels, men? No, angels are not human beings, so they have no. Yeah.
Are angels talked about in Judaism as a he or she or not either?
Or trans.
Yeah, or all the letters that go with it. Like God is always talked about as a he.
It's not talked about. No, he's not talked about. God talks about himself as a he.
But
Yeah.
okay, but we know that it's God's much more than a he.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what are angels?
I talked about it as he's or as males. You're right, but it's just for us to be able to relate to them again.
Kiss my tongue.
They no problem, no problem. They are not even human beings, right? They're not even close. They're from a different world altogether, so they don't even have genders. Yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah.
at the table is not a he or she, I mean.
It's a question. It's a question. Well, then why do you say Shulchan Yafeh, not Shulchan Yafa? Why?
Social kind, but we're talking about English.
Okay, fine. I'm just saying. Same with angels. Yeah, you use the masculine for tables. But anyway, that the point is that the angels are not even connected to that realm.
Oh, we should
Yeah.
just have a class of angels. This is
Yeah.
not class
No, I
of
just
angels.
yeah. Thank you for bringing it up, Mark. But I just want to say one more thing about angels, and that is no, really, thank you. But I want to say one thing about angels, and that is that no angel and no amount of angels have the power that you have as a soul. Your one soul can overpower millions of angels, good angels and bad angels. And therefore, the power of you fulfilling the needs of that soul can elevate you way you don't need to be dependent on angels. You cross the street, you don't need to be dependent on angels. You have you. Sorry? Yeah, fine. That was just using the same example. Yeah.
What's coming to my mind is instead of gender, I feel it's an energy.
Mm-hmm.
An energy that is, I feel the protection or the motivation. I feel it I mean, that's how I interpret it, as energy.
Right. Absolutely. I would agree. I mean, that they certainly increase your energy or decrease your energy. But okay, so that's angels that are created with mitzvahs. And then you have angels that are created with moments. Shabbat. How do we start Shabbat every Friday? We sing the song of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, which means welcome who? Malachei Asharet. We welcome the angels who come. And it says that every Friday we have two angels escorting us into the Shabbat. And then we welcome them into our homes. And those angels witness what is happening in the home. And they then bless us before they leave. Or they curse us before they leave. If they see that the home is a home of peace and harmony where Shabbat dwells, it says, may it be this week, this way next week also. And if not, then they say, may it be this way that next week also. And it really depends. But again, because we are souls, we have the power to change that blessing if it's a negative one.
So angels have the capacity for discernment.
Yeah.
They can determine whether this home is a home of goodness and blessings.
Yes, not as much as our souls can.
Yeah.
That's why even if they did determine,
Right.
and we don't do anything about it. I mean, if we don't do anything about it, then what they determined is what they determined.
Do angels
But-
have
Yeah.
Do angels have the capacity to understand motivation, or is it just action?
It's a good question to understand the motivation of human beings, of God,
Of humans.
of human beings.
Yes.
So yes, they do. In general, they do. But they can't act upon the motivation. They act upon the action. Yeah. So when an angel was sent, which is another story, it's not just Shabbat, right? It's all sorts of moments and places. But when an angel was sent, the angel Gabriel was sent to destroy the city of Sodom, then he destroyed the city of Sodom based on their actions, not based on their motivations.
No, I was just
Yeah.
Googling angel, because it's driving me crazy. It says a spiritual being believed to act as an attendant, agent, or messenger of God.
Fine.
That's what it is.
No comment. Okay. All right. Thank you, Webster. Yes.
Last question. When I think of a bad angel, I think of like a demon, right? Like in
Right.
popular culture. So I'm just wondering, is there such a thing in Judaism?
It's a great question.
Is there a distinction between bad angels? I just said in popular culture, we think of the opposite of an angel, or is a bad angel would be like a demon. Is
Right.
there an equivalent in Judaism? And is there
So-
a distinction?
That's a great question. The main difference between our view of bad angels and other religions' views is that we hold that there can be bad angels, the Satan, for example, but it has zero independent function. So they have to be following God's orders. There's only one God with one person in charge, and that's it. They just follow God's orders. So the angel of death, who's a very bad angel, obviously, he doesn't decide, oh, I want this person to die, I'm just going to go and take his life away. No, he can't do that. Only God can tell him to do that. It has to be by God's orders. Well, other religions may believe that they have their own independent way of acting.
By
Yeah.
the way, you can buy angels of Amazon.
So.
Yeah.
Satan,
Yes.
is Satan an angel? Or is Satan a different category?
So Satan is an angel. In Kabbalah, Satan is an angel. And again, it's an angel with zero independent function. He's completely subservient to God. Now, we also have, again, remember, we come from a higher level. I think this is the point to stress and stress and stress again. We come from the world of creation. They come from the world of formation. Therefore, our souls are much, much more powerful than any angel, good and bad, even the Satan. And if we can be in tune with our souls and truly unleash the power of our souls through mitzvahs, through answering its needs, then no angel can ever faze us.
And Satan can't touch us.
Can't touch us. That's the story with King David. The story of King David, speaking of the angel of death, the story with King David is that he first and foremost wanted to know when he will die. And God said, sorry, that's one of my secrets. No human being has ever known when they'll die. So he begged God, he said, okay, if you can't tell me when I'll die, at least tell me what day of the week I'll die. God said, fine, you'll die on a Shabbat. Each and every Shabbat, King David would spend his time studying Torah, because he knew that by studying Torah, you are expressing your soul, and therefore you are stronger than the angel of death. And when the time came for him to die, the angel of death couldn't touch him. So he didn't know what to do. He said, I was sent by God to take his life, but his soul is more powerful than me. What am I going to do? So he waited and waited. He wanted to see if there's any interruptions. Nothing. King David was immersed in the study. So at one point, the angel of death thought of an idea. This the Midrash says. It went to a tree next to King David, and he moved its branches. And King David was like, oh, what is happening there? As soon as he stopped his study, that's when the angel of death got him. And that's how he died. But that comes to show you again that no one can touch us if we are completely in tune with our soul.